May the true word move swiftly from our ears to our hearts and from our hearts to the world around us. Today's parable of the dishonest manager has gotten a lot of press in various Bible commentaries for hundreds of years as one of Jesus' more complex and in some ways more perplexing stories. And at first glance, that might appear to be the case because there are a number of apparent inconsistencies and contradictions that are in this parable. But the fact remains that this parable in the Gospel is plunked squarely in the middle of Luke's account in a number of different ways, of the ways in which money and wealth need to be kept in focus and in balance. How we develop and play out our attitudes toward wealth and money as the children of God is clearly the message here. In this story told by Jesus, we are witness to an apparent mixed message of congratulations extended by the master to his manager after having found that the manager has misappropriated the master's wealth in the form of accounts receivable, in order that the manager might feather his own nest in the face of an uncertain future. Having been discovered as unfaithful to the master's accounts, the manager moves quickly and cunningly to ensure his own secular comfort, and in the process betrays the trust of the master. But there's an apparent paradox offered here in one of the verses, and you probably picked it up, but it goes like this. And his master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the children of this age are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than are the children of light. Why does the master in this parable seemingly praise the dishonest manager for his shrewdness? What is it that Jesus is trying to reveal by telling this story with this apparent contradiction between commending the dishonest conduct of the manager and our responsibility to manage wealth faithfully as members of the Christian community? It probably would serve well that we remembered Jesus told this story in the midst of a crowd that was substantially comprised of just two classes of people. There were the very wealthy and those who were desperately poor. And both groups of people would have been paying very close attention. They'd have been straining their necks forward to get an idea of Jesus' attitude towards wealth and money as an indication of their own status in the eyes of God. And in this respect, Jesus, as the Son of God, is in some ways akin to the master in this parable, overseeing the day-to-day activities of those in his charge, or at least understanding what's going on. And that includes their mercantile activities, their business activities, every day in the market, in the souk, buying, selling, and trading things of value every day, every week. It seems to me that this parable is a little more understandable if we keep in mind the intense humanity that was Jesus, as well as the divinity in Jesus as the Son of God. In that humanity, we can perhaps hear Jesus sharing this parable and speaking with not a little tongue-in-cheek. Perhaps we can see him, arms folded across his chest, or maybe just kind of leaning on something like this, and essentially saying to them, you're all so smart when it comes to the day-to-day manipulation of wealth to your own benefit. But when it comes to reconciling your true wealth as gifts of God for the glory of God, you're still very much a work in progress. And here, Jesus is perhaps being delightfully cheeky when he commends the manager for being so well schooled in the art of manipulating both social relationships and money for his own benefit, that he says, make friends for yourself by means of dishonest wealth, so that when it's gone, they may welcome you into eternal homes. Are true friends ever really the result of the kind of backroom wheeling and dealing exhibited by the manager in the story? And what about the creation of genuinely eternal homes that would offer endless hospitality and welcome? Not likely. Jesus knows it. And like the crowd that were witness to this parable, so do we. But there's a correlation here between the dishonest management of wealth and turning away from what's important, in which many of us are complicit. We're complicit not because we take from others per se, but because we show little conscience for striking a healthy balance in the management of our wealth in all its forms to benefit others versus ourselves. It's all about care and balance. My dad used to say, probably some of you still say, and others of you will have heard your parents say, it's all so easy to $2 spend yourself into oblivion. It's all about care and balance. Every pedicure, every discretionary shopping trip, every optional luncheon is actually an opportunity to stop and think about balance. The kind of balance that Jesus is talking about when he cautions at the end of the gospel today that you cannot serve two masters at the same time. What this parable does not go on to address is how we can reconcile righteousness before God and the management of personal wealth. And by that I mean talents, assets, all of it. Whether it's in the form of money, personal skill, or simply a little bit of time to spare to help build the kingdom of God. But we might frame this question a little bit more pointedly. Why do we come to church and gather as we do, apparently happy in our declaration as children of God? Ironically, I'm going to suggest that the answer can in part be found in the eyes and in the conversations of the unchurched around us. Maybe of the folks for whom we exist, they are describing themselves as spiritual but not religious. And how many of us have heard that? And before you think otherwise, the majority of these folk are not post-religious. They have not been jaded by some past experience of the church. Notwithstanding, they hold a healthy disrespect for the institutional church, yet they continue to talk in terms of spiritual things, and frankly, they're curious about our commitment to what they see as traditional religion. These folk do understand that we are spiritual creatures as Christians, and they get it why we seek to help people as one manifestation of who we are. But they ask why bother the church. That's the part they don't get. What commonly follows is a discussion of how irrelevant church is to today's society. In their view, what the church used to provide, and in many cases still does, can be found elsewhere in secular life. Community service projects like Kiwanis and Rotary, book clubs, seniors groups, outreach to the poor, meditation and support groups, and so on. I do my best to understand these voices of the unchurched, and I think so should you. Because these voices are partly right in one respect. If the church is little more than a glorified community center or a service provider, why are we surprised that few show up in a world filled with secular competing alternatives? So when we think about the righteous management of God-gifted assets, we might start with the question, do I really need church? Why not quietly and shrewdly redirect my assets with disposable time, or money, or talents in some other direction? Why not spend more money on eating out? Why not frequent upcoming concerts a little bit more often? Or maybe volunteer in a mission soup kitchen once in a while, as long as it doesn't interfere with any of those pursuits just mentioned. Why go to church at all? I've been thinking about that question, actually, beginning a long time ago. And I've decided there's at least very good reason why I need church, and I think all of us need church. It's because we have really bad memories. At times we have terrible memories when it comes to remembering who we are as children of God. We're especially forgetful when it comes to remembering what God has done, continues to do for us in and through the life of Jesus. I often forget who I am. I forget who God is. And I'm sorry to say that I sometimes forget God's epic story of redemption and liberation and renewal and beauty and hope. I forget. And I suspect that you and I are much different at times. On top of that, there seems to be a million demands and voices that are competing for attention all the flippin' time. In my life, it's my work, it's the flying club, it's consulting requests, and so on. So I freely admit it. There are times when I get tired, and I get distracted, and sadly enough, I forget. But I need church. Because church reminds me of what's really important. And I hope you do too. And when I say church, I'm not talking about a building, a particular liturgy, a style of music, or any of the other trappings of tradition. I mean the people. I'm referring to the organic, collective, flesh and blood body of Christ. I'm talking about the beautiful but undeniably imperfect community of people who help me remember who I am, to whom I belong, over and over again. But don't get me wrong, I still enjoy some of the good things in life. In fact, there are two people sitting in this room who are collaborating members of a Scotch Appreciation Club here in the city, and every once in a while we love to tie a single malt and have a nice dinner together. Don't we not? And while I certainly appreciate this aspect of my life, it's no substitute for being fed by the bread of life. There are a number of teachers with us here today. You know who you are. And you probably share with me the intensity of seeing a student excel at some aspect of subject matter you've shared with them. As you work to empower them in who they are as a student, suddenly they get it. That is a transcendent experience, and I value it. But I also live to sing the worship songs and the old hymns of the church that have sustained followers of Jesus for generations. And I'll also admit that I discovered God's Spirit working in and through creation. My problem is that I consider that issue at a level of molecular genetic detail, and I'm sort of condemned when I share that with a few colleagues. But it doesn't matter. I still need to worship the Creator and His creation in order to be reminded that all good things come from God. And don't misunderstand me. I think service projects are, for the most part, good and important. But I find it better to serve others with an eye toward a long-term, institutional, sustainable, biblically inspired justice making, rather than simply showing up at a do-good soup kitchen on a Saturday afternoon, if it suits me. So do I need church? Do we need church? You better believe it. We need church for many reasons, but mostly because we're prone to a bad memory. And if you agree, then maybe I'll continue to see you at worship services at any time during the week, rather than bumping into you at the casino theater. Maybe I'll bump into you at a pastor dinner or other parish event here, rather than at the baker's diner just up the street. And maybe we'll have some time to sit down and chat, where you can remind me about the parable of the dishonest manager and what it means to be a steward of the king. I'd like that.